Hello, everyone. This is Cassandra Williamson with The Path Forward. How are you today? Let's get started. It is Tuesday. I believe it's the 25th, I think, of March. Yes, it's amazing that it is. Time's flying quickly. So today we've got a couple of things I want to cover. And some of you may not be able to see this over in the chat box because apparently I'm just commenting over on YouTube, which is strange. So anyway, so this is what we're going to talk about today, okay? I want to show you how to go into the Federal Register and deal with an issue that the Health and Human Services is trying to push through, where they're trying to push through a proposed rule that will change lots of things for a lot of Americans. And yes, so let's jump right into this, okay? Here we go. Let me share a screen with you. And give me 1 second to share the screen. All right, here we go. All right, so hopefully this is where you can see it. This is that rule, okay? Affordable Care Act. And let me see, I'm gonna put it over in here. Let me just put this in where I can put it on the screen where you can see it. And then you can actually look it up on the Federal Register. Go to federalregister.gov and then you'll put in the search bar for this particular thing I've just highlighted. But here's what this is, folks. This is something they put out here on the 17th of March, and the comment period is open until April the 11th. So we have 17 days left in which to actually put a comment on this thing, as it says right there in the big bold letters. You can see this right here. This document has a comment period that ends in 17 days. April the 11th, 2025. You can click that button to go submit a public comment. But let's talk about what it's about first. We're going to go into the executive summary. This is basically the summary that they're supposed to write it in plain language in 100 words or less, what this proposed rule is all about. Well, they spent a lot of time telling you what it's all about and all the first things that are with all the semicolons. It revises standards to past due premium payments. And here's one that's going to affect a lot of people also in this country. It excludes deferred childhood arrivals, the DACA arrival recipients, from the definition of lawfully present. So basically it's saying, hey, you're not here lawfully present. You're not in the country lawfully, in other words. It changes the evidentiary standard HHS, Health and Human Services, using to assess an agent's, brokers, whatever, noncompliance. Failure to file and reconcile, income eligibility verification, automatic re-enrollment, open enrollment period, special enrollment periods, de minimis threshold, accrual value. And then use this phrase right here, essential health benefits, and they're calling that EHB. So you're going to see that a lot through here. EHB is essential health benefits requirement. And it goes on down through here, premium adjustment percentages and prohibits. And this last little bit, this last portion, the last statement after the last semicolon tells you what this thing is all about. Most of it, not all of it, but a large percentage of it. You find it in here. This right here, it says prohibits. I'm going to put it in that, and I'm going to increase the size and pull it up there like that. Maybe you can see it. Yeah. Prohibit issuers of coverage subject to essential health benefits requirements from providing coverage for sex trait modification as an essential health benefit. Now look, numerous health organizations, professional health organizations in this country know and have stated many times that care for sex trait modification is essential, necessary medical care. But they don't like that. They're going to change that, okay? And here's the other part of this statement too. The sex trait modification. They're trying to confuse people with that. They decided not to use the word gender or care because, you know, they don't like that it affirms anything. They don't want to use that term, that phrase. They don't use that. They actually tell you that even though it's recognized as being gender affirming care, we're going to call it sex trait modification because, you know, that's how they see it, that sex is immutable. They could not be so wrong. Anyway, so those are things to keep in mind. Now, here's the other part about this, though. You can actually go through here and search this. I'm going to switch over to another document, stop sharing on this one, and switch to one where I've got it set up to search this document, okay? So I hope you're with me. Put some chats over there and statements or comments or whatever suggestions over there in the chat box, and just let me know what you're seeing and saying and thinking. Okay. But I'm going to share screen again, but this time I'm going to do it from a PDF document that I've got over my Windows side of things here, right here. Now this is actually the PDF. It's a PDF document that I downloaded from the Federal Register for this, for Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, place integrity and affordability. This is that rule, proposed rule change that we were just talking about. It's got the same information in it, right down here highlighted in the yellow box, and prohibit issuers from coverage subject to EHB for sex trait modification as an EHB. Okay, so, but here's what you can do on this thing. If you go over here in the little search button, hopefully you can see this up here at the top. Yeah. Little search button right there. You can see it highlighted. All right, I clicked it. You can type in a word, any kind of word you want. Let's say you type in ACA for the Affordable Care Act. And it'll tell you that it's mentioned, the number, you can see the number going up over there. ACA is mentioned 353 times in this document. But just know that it even picks up some examples like Obamacare, which has ACA in the middle of it right there. ACA, right? But it picks up stuff like that. And you can search this document. Now, if you go in here and type in gender and hit enter, you'll find that gender is only mentioned 13 times. And most of those times happen to be in the reference section, the footnotes, stuff like that. It's mentioned, it's there a couple other times. If I hit the little down button here, you go to the second one that's still down here in the, in the footnotes. This one's actually in the body. And then it says defending women from gender ideology extremism. They're quoting the Executive Order 14168. And then they go on down, you can see how to do this. You can see what I'm doing, right? There were 13 references for the word gender. And if you go on down, you'll find that it's gender-affirming care. And this is the one that actually is something I wanted you to say. As noted in the definition of chemical and surgical mutilation in EO 14187, this phrase sometimes is referred to as gender-affirming care and is referred to in this proposed rule as sex trait modification. Why? Because they don't want to affirm anybody's gender. I mean, they're not about gender. They're just about the biological sex, okay? Yeah, right. So they're going to try to make it sound worse than it is. When you say gender-affirming care, they don't want to use that because it appeals. It's not aggressive enough, I guess you could say. So they're going to use sex trait modification. That's mentioned 13 times with gender. Okay, now let's type in sex trait, the way they've got it, and then just hit, well, I did it for itself. There are 51 references to sex trait. 51 references to it in here. And this is only a 90-page document. And in 90 pages, they use the word sex trait modification 51 times. Yes. And if you take out the trait part, you're going to see something else that's a little interesting too. Okay. You can go through and find that the word sex, just by itself, sex, is mentioned 74 times. And it's obviously it's part of sex trait, but sometimes they use it independent of sex dash trait. Okay. Hyphen. So anyway, this document really goes after all of those different groups that were mentioned in the forward. Let me go back to the forward. That's 90-some pages up. Let me go all the way back to the forward. And in the summary to this thing, right here in the summary, prohibit issuers of coverage subject to EHB essential health benefits requirements from providing coverage for sex trait modification as an EHB. They're trying to legally put within the framework of the federal government that gender-affirming care is not essential. And that goes for everything. That goes for anything from prosthetics to hormones to voice therapy, laser hair removal, electrolysis, surgeries, anything. They don't want any of that covered in the whole and all of insurance and across HIPAA. All of it. They're wanting to change this across the whole government. They're wanting to do this. Now, look, we know that all the comment period does is just gives people an opportunity to vent, that it doesn't actually impact. Let me stop sharing. I'm gonna go back over to the other screen because I need to see the screen. We know for a fact that all the comments really have no impact on the results and on the outcome. Okay, they are going to pass this proposed rule and make it an official rule within Health and Human Services, impacting the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services. Okay, which means all your Medicaid, all your Medicare, all the ACA, the people out there in the country who have the Affordable Care Act insurance. And if you don't think it's going to apply to other insurance companies, private or otherwise, well, you got another thing coming. Once the CMS changes this stuff, the Center for Medicaid Services changes the definitions and makes gender affirming care or sex trait modification not an essential health benefit, then there is no reason for anyone to carry it and cover it. And there's a lot of insurance providers out there that do cover this, okay? A lot. But in here, in this document, in the document itself, they actually talk about there aren't that many out there. And they say there's only like 0.1% of the population that this would impact. And they're talking about how powerful that would be, you know, how much money we would save by not covering all that crap. Okay, so let me tell you something. So what do you do? What do we do? How do we do something about this? The first thing you've got to do is go to that website, the Federal Register, and I'm going to share that page again, and we're going to walk through this, okay, how you actually comment on it. So share the page. I'm going to get the size back down to where I can actually see what we're looking at here. Okay, now, Federal Register. Now, remember, this is what we're looking for. Let me just copy this really quickly. Copy. I'm going to go back over to stop sharing. I'll put this up here on the screen as a caption. And let me add this right here, paste, add, and show. Okay, so no, not that one. Show, that one. What's on the screen right now is what you're looking for. You go to federalregister.gov. Look for that. Search for that. Patient Protection Affordable Care Act, Marketplace Integrity and Affordability. Go there and look for that. Now, once you get there, or you can go over to my blog post that I've emailed everybody. You can find that thing. I've posted lots about it all day long. You can go click on that link to the blog, and inside it, you've got links to these things, okay? And actually, the PDF is referenced there as well. So go in there and do that. Now, let's go back to share the screen because I want to show you how you actually comment on this and what the process will entail. All right, first thing, now that we've talked about what this is all about, and we know that it's not going to really affect it, how we comment, but we must comment, because to ignore it is to validate what they're saying. And right now there's 5,409 comments. And I did a random check through some of them, and all of them are in opposition. That doesn't mean all of them actually, but the ones that I sampled, just across the spectrum, they were all in opposition, which is weird. Anyway, submit a public comment. So you click on submit a public comment, and you can go down through here and just fill in the information. All right, so I'm going to do it with you. I'm going to say don't use my words, because you don't want to be lumped into somebody saying the same thing repetitively over and over and over again. Even though that does count, it adds up. But I oppose this rule change. It's harmful to those Americans seeking gender-affirming care. Just gender-affirming care, or as you call it, gender-affirming care, gender-affirming or as you call it, sex trait modification, FICAT modification, is medically necessary. Necessary care. When you say that this care is not EHB, they know what that means, essential health benefit, not an EHB, then you are denying the scientific reality or the proven, whatever we want to say, let me see, then you are denying the science, acceptable science. And now, all right, what is your comment about? Let me see, I'm not going to do all that. This is just health. Okay, no, I'm not one of those. I am an individual. Let me see where I can find individual. You got to find individual in here. You can, if you're part of any of those other organizations, you can actually go through and do that, okay? And now we're going to type in, here's the email address I'm using, and I don't want to opt in to receive confirmation of submission. Well, yeah, I do. I'll get confirmation of receiving it. Okay. Now you have to click one of these three options here as an individual or an organization or anonymous. Now realize that when you put this in as an individual and you put your information in here, your name will be posted publicly until the end of the comment period. You can post anonymously too, or as an organization. If you post anonymously, your information won't be made available, but law requires them to make your name available. So I'm going to leave mine available because, that's just who I am. I'm out in the middle of the street, right? Got the phone number in there. I read and understand. I read and understand. I read and understand the statement above. Okay, then somebody needs to go back to grammar school. All right, submit my comment. Here we go. Thank you. Your comment has been submitted to regulation.gov for review. My tracking number is next steps, optional steps, notify me, sign up, and all this kind of stuff. You don't have to worry about that. That's all it takes, folks, to go in there and make a comment on this thing. So I urge you to go in there, look up this on the federalregister.gov, www.federalregister.gov. And let me just put that up there. I'm going to add this as a ticker across the bottom. www.federalregister.gov. Add here, right there. Go to federalregister.gov, okay, and then type in that title, Patient Protection Affordable Care Act. All right. Now let's see. We do have one comment over here. Hello from Maine. Hey, Danny, how you doing up in Maine? Good to see you. Thank you for commenting, by the way. And I do want to say, for all the viewers out there and everyone who may be watching this, we've been having quite a few people come in that don't necessarily show up in that totals view over there in the corner on the screen. Okay, somebody said Nesker. Okay, hey, my cousin from down in Nolens. EHB is essential health benefit. EHB, essential health benefit. They don't think that our care is an essential health benefit when all the professional organizations in the country actually say that it is, but they don't care. They're driven by ideology, and actually it's a religious ideology, but nothing else, nothing more than that. It's not rational. Had to say all that. Thanks. Thank you for your comment. Okay, so everyone, thank you so much. I don't want to go much beyond 20 minutes because that's actually pushing the limit for people who actually watch these. That typically the science says about 17 minutes. So with that, come back tomorrow evening at 6. We'll talk about some more. And tomorrow evening, by the way, is going to be when we talk about one of our active duty military people. All right, get one of those examples that we could actually look at and follow. So the path forward, make sure you go in here to this site for the Affordable Care Act on the federalregister.gov and look up that phrase, Patient Protection Affordable Care Act, Marketplace Integrity and Affordability. Go look it up. Go there, find it, click on it, read it. You can go look at my blog on my website. Go to the website. Let me see, where's the website link? It's not there right now. Okay, so, up here, captions. Go here. No. Where is it? Anyway, it's not in there handy. Here it is. Go right there. Subscribe to my newsletter down here at the bottom, www.cassandra-llc.com. Go there. Let me know what you think. And if you have any news stories out there that you think might be pertinent to what we talk about on here, the way forward for all Americans, really, particularly veterans, but all Americans. Interesting. Thank you. It is an ESB for all, an EHB, yes. It's supposed to be. Okay. They missed their proctologist appointment. Danny, I won't touch that with a 10-foot pole. Good night.